Sometimes understanding your avoidant ex can feel like trying to read a closed book. But once you actually know what to look for, there really are some very clear signs that your avoidant ex is going to display when they want you back. There are also some less obvious ones that you'll never notice if you don't actually know what to look for. All right, so to start, we just need to do a quick diagnostic here because I've been getting the sense that people don't really know what it means for somebody to be avoidant. It's sort of becoming a catch-all term when it really means something quite specific. So first off, just because your ex is avoiding you, it doesn't mean that they're necessarily an avoidant. When we talk about avoidance here, we're talking about people with an avoidant attachment style. That means that they make use of avoidance as their default way of dealing with intimacy, conflict, and difficult emotions. And this is something that you'll have seen during the relationship. They didn't suddenly become avoidant once the relationship ended. This is a behavior it's learned in childhood. So look for some of the following things before you brand your ex an avoidant. Starting with number one, which is just they avoid emotional intimacy. So if your ex kept conversations surface level and avoided difficult topics, if they struggled to express their feelings or to hear yours, then that is a sign of avoidance. Number two, they prioritize freedom over closeness. So if your ex is really self-sufficient, they can't rely on others and they prefer to handle problems themselves, then that's definitely another sign. Number three is they pull away when things get serious. So those who date avoidance report that after a deep or intimate moment, the avoidant will suddenly withdraw, either emotionally or physically, by creating distance, reducing contact, or just going cold. And four is that they avoid conflict or difficult conversations altogether. Instead of addressing problems, avoidants tend to just shut down, change the subject, or minimize the issue. In extreme cases, they may even dump you or ghost you just to avoid those kind of conversations. And number five, they downplay emotional needs, both yours and their own. So avoidants act like they don't need emotional support, and they struggle to provide it for themselves and for others. So they'll accuse you of overreacting, making a big deal out of nothing, and trying to start a fight for no reason. So if you haven't noticed this stuff in your ex consistently, then they're probably not an avoidant. They're just avoiding you. Good news is that I actually have a video on that topic as well that I'm going to link up here in the pop-up and down in the description below. But if your ex is an avoidant, then let's talk about what to look for next. So avoidant behavior is hard during a relationship, but it really kicks into overdrive after a breakup. And this is true whether or not your ex wants you back. So, don't take your ex missing calls, pulling away, or avoiding the issue as a sign that they're moving on. It's actually more a sign that they feel overwhelmed by the situation and are trying to just take some space from it, at least at first. And then, once the stress and the pain of the breakup starts to fade away, they start to gain interest again, and they start to display some key signs. And that starts with sign number one, which is what's called circling behavior. An avoidant is almost never going to come out and say, I love you, I need you, I want you back. And they're also probably not going to say, I'm sorry, breaking up was a huge mistake. They hide their feelings because they see them as a sign of weakness and shame. So rather than what they're saying, you need to look at their behavior. When an avoidant starts to gain interest again after a breakup, they engage in what I call circling behavior. So they won't come at you directly, but they're going to get closer and closer to you in whatever way they can. Now, there's really a million ways that this can manifest. They might start texting you more and more. They might happen to be at places they know you frequent, like a coffee shop or grocery store or your favorite bar. It can even be a bit more subtle than that. They might start finding really good reasons that they have to spend time around you. Like maybe they have to give back your belongings, or they need your help or a favor. I had actually one client where their ex claimed to not be interested at all. And I would have believed them, except they kept bringing my client's dog's specially made meals because they were worried about the dog's health. It was like twice a week that they'd stop by with these gourmet lunches for the dog. Now, were they really concerned about the dog's nutrition, or was this just a not so subtle sign that they wanted my client back? Well, I'll let you decide for yourself, but you may be swayed by the fact that the two of them actually got married just a couple of years after that. So the thing with circling is that it's all about the avoidant getting close to you without putting themselves out there too much or being too vulnerable. Maybe you've ever seen like a nature documentary where there's hyenas that are hunting a water buffalo. They don't just charge up and start going to town. At first, they just sort of watch and keep their distance. They don't want to risk the bigger animal hurting them or running away, so they sort of act casual and wait for the right moment. But they're always creeping a little bit closer and closer. Now, you're not a water buffalo and your ex isn't a hyena, but it's really the same idea. Interestingly, the avoidant will often project their own feelings onto you. So they expect you to run away because they expect themselves to run away. And that's why they'll be so indirect. All right, sign number 2 is just hot and cold behavior. So typically, we see exes slowly rebuild the connection bit by bit until they come to the decision to make it official and actually get back together. But with avoidant exes, this tends to look a little bit different. Just like you probably saw when you two first got together, avoidants are going to come on strong and then back away. This is going to manifest as a lot of hot and cold behavior. So your ex will be friendly, engaged, even affectionate at times, but then they'll pull away and go cold. Avoidants are really like cats in that way. They want you to pet them, but then all of a sudden they get overstimulated and that's when they bite your hand and run away. Now, many people look at this kind of behavior and think that it means that their ex is not interested or is only just playing with them. But that usually isn't the case. With an avoidant ex, this just reflects their troubled mental state. They want you, but they fear letting you in again. They care about you, but they're afraid. It's a very frustrating scenario, I know, but it does mean that there is still hope. If your ex is actually over you, they're not going to act this way. Avoidants are very good at keeping their distance when they want to, so if they've moved on, you're not going to see them going back and forth like this. All right, and sign number 3 is arguing with themselves. And this is something that I've noticed that exes will do when they're gaining interest, but are resistant to getting back together. So they'll have whole conversations, debates even, without you weighing in at all. It's a strange one, and it's hard to believe if you haven't experienced it yourself. But basically, they're going to be coming to you with excuses as to why things won't work out. So they'll come to you out of the blue and say, it just won't work. We're too different. You don't get along with my family. I'm too busy with work. You like to travel and I like to stay at home. And whatever their reasoning is, the fact that your ex is clearly debating the pros and cons of getting back together is a very strong sign that they're getting more invested in the relationship. They see this as them getting distance from you, clearing the air and letting you down easy. But really, they're revealing their own obsession with you and with the relationship. They want you back, but they're afraid to admit it to themselves, so they're making excuses. Now isn't the time to try to explain away all these points that they're making. Now, you don't want to be bargaining with your ex, trying to convince them to give you a second chance. It is okay to address some of these concerns and start a dialogue, but you should be more focused on building the emotional connection than on solving all the potential problems that the two of you might have. The more you can connect to them emotionally, the less important all of this stuff is going to seem to them. Now, I should say this sign really only counts if you're just minding your own business and they come to you. If you're on your knees begging them for a second chance and they're giving you all the reasons why they won't come back, then that is not a sign of them gaining interest. It's a sign that you need to give them space. All right, and on to number 4, which is jealousy and concern. So in just about any situation, jealousy is a sign of interest. And so is concern for your well-being. So, if your ex is truly over you, they're not going to be jealous when they see you dating somebody new. Now, with most exes, this jealousy is going to be more obvious. But with avoidance, it's going to be quite subtle. So if your ex is avoidant, I typically take any sign of interest in who you've been hanging out with, or if you're seeing somebody new, as a sign that they're still invested and they want you back, at least on some level. So if they ask you questions about your social life, basically that is a sign that they're starting to regain interest. But this also goes for signs of concern for your health, for your family, for your happiness. Basically, if your ex seems particularly caring and empathetic towards you, that is a sign that they're into you. Because an avoidant, they don't want to reveal their feelings for you. So they'll come out in different ways. It's going to look like curiosity and concern rather than affection in a lot of cases. Basically, if they're asking you a lot of questions, offering their help, or being a shoulder to cry on, that is a sign that they're gaining interest, especially if these were things that they struggled with when the two of you were still together. All right, and sign number 5 is you score 70 or over on my quiz. Now, it can be really hard to sort out your ex's feelings when they're so quiet. And that's one of the reasons that I put together my free quiz. So if you just go to breakupbrad.com/quiz right now, answer a few questions, and I'll give you a personalized report detailing how your ex feels about you right now. This is an essential step because it's also going to tell you the next moves you need to make in order to get them back. Again, you can take it for free in less than 5 minutes at breakupbrad.com/quiz. All right, guys, that is it for this one. Please like this video, subscribe, and leave me a comment if you have any questions. I read and respond to as many as I possibly can. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.